Welcome to my latest InShot interview, and today we've got the luminary of Kenneth Williams, the very famous David Benson. Welcome, David.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Grimes. I deny that I'm famous.
Oh, but you are famous.
I'm very obscure. I'm one of the few artists who's become more obscure as my career has gone on.
Well,
I designed it that way, in fact. Start with a bang and then sort of become a bit more kind of...
okay,
you know.
but you are known.
I do seem to be known by some. I'm lucky to be well enough known that people in my profession know who I am.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I'm not bothered in the street. Nobody stops me in the street and pesters me.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Or points at me on the tube or anything like that.
But having said that, I did go to this event here, Beyond Our Ken.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I did notice lots and lots of autograph hunters.
Well,
For
yes,
you.
because that kind of event attracts a particular kind of audience of aficionados, people with very good taste, who know about things like what Beyond Our Ken is. Anyone who knows what it is at all is already, passed through a certain barrier, a certain filter of culturedness and good taste to actually seek these things out. So you get an audience who are familiar in a way.
I understand.
I actually know that I'll be a real hit, I'll be a real success when I don't know the names of at least half the audience.
Right.
Because I do at the moment. You're not meant to, they're supposed to be strangers. That's the sign of when you're a real success,
True,
isn't it?
true.
You play to strangers, not to people you know.
Yes. Right.
You're usually in the audience on most shows.
Well, I just love it. Although I'm not one of those people that goes to conventions or anything, and I think those are the sorts of people that you're
you don't?
describing.
You've never been to
Well, I've been one to convention, but that's because I was invited.
No, actually, these people don't actually always go to conventions necessarily, but they do meet with other like-minded people and converse with,
Okay.
write books.
I understand.
In the old days, as you know, people used to write magazines, fanzines, which they put out. There's a real hardcore, I suppose, who I've known for many, many years, who began with these home-produced magazines devoted to British comedy and what have you.
Right.
Or whatever particular thing, Carry On, Doctor Who, whatever. Now it's become more of an industry, I guess.
Right.
But that feeds on that fascination or that real obsession in a way with these cultural artifacts.
So we spoke earlier today, and I was briefly describing how I was planning this interview and the structure for this interview today.
There's a structure? Oh my God, a structure.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've done quite a bit of research.
Oh, I see.
Well, I had to do a lot of research because you're a multifaceted character and your interests.
You make me sound like Dame Edna. I'm multifaceted, George. I am. My personality is multi-layered. Sorry, go on.
Well, yeah, like history, Troy has got 7 or 8 layers, hasn't it? However, apart from being the luminary of Kenneth Williams, you've recently done a sellout tours, not just one, tours with Jack Lane, with
Jack
Dad's
Lane.
Army,
Yes.
which I went to at Greenwich Theatre, and that was great, the Dad's Army radio tour.
Well, to explain that is a show where we recreate Dad's Army radio scripts rather than television. So we're not acting it out as they do on telly.
Yeah.
We're just doing it as they used to do on the radio because, as you probably know, most of about some 80 episodes of Dad's Army were done with the original cast in radio series. So Asleep in the Deep or Deadly Attachment, all those famous episodes were done radioized, which fascinated me. It's fascinating how you can take a whole scene, like, for instance, Captain Mannering and Jones being swept up into the air on a barrage balloon and carried across miles and miles of Thetford countryside. How do you do that on stage? Well, you can do it on the radio, of course. If you do it with sound effects, you can do almost anything. So I had this idea to do Dad's Army, the radio show on stage, back in 2000. I remember it was 2016 I first had the idea. It was a bit like this kind of thing, which is Beyond Our Ken, where you have the scripts of original episodes and you're doing them at the microphone as a stage show. You're not actually broadcasting it, but you're doing it as if.
But it works so well, and there's only 2 of you, and I was just fascinated.
Good.
Well, that's one of my words, but I loved it. I absolutely
Well, the
loved
thing is, it relies on the audience's imagination a lot because there are, as you say, only two of us, and that's what I think probably marks us out from people who are doing like Hancock or Around the Horn or all these other things on stage.
But we all
There's
know
only
the
two of us.
characters.
Playing all the characters.
And your impersonations are just so exacting. It's very easy for the audience to follow.
That's it, and we make them as exact as we can. So I'll be going from Wilson, John the Measurer. Would you mind awfully just forming 3 neat ranks as quickly as we can? Come along, Godfrey, old boy, all that. John the Measurer, or Fraser is telling stories about his girl Jessie went walking on the cliffs one dark night. Was blown over the cliffs into the sea. All these lovely stories, so we have things like that. And then you have dear old Arnold Ridley as Godfrey. These are all my characters that I play. Jack plays Mannering, Jones, Pike, Mrs. Pike, and many, many other characters. And we divvy it up and we just have these scripts that we've adapted ourselves from original television scripts to radio. And some of them we try and go for quite convoluted or visual episodes to do them faithfully on screen.
Right.
On stage rather. So the audience use their imagination and go into a kind of dream, as you did, as you still are in a way, in a dream where they see the images from the show. And everybody in the audience has their own version of that. They're watching us, but they're also seeing a subliminal film.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely marvellous. And as I say, it was more than one tour, and they're all sold out.
I think we might be finished with that for now because of rights issues.
Oh, I
we
see.
will only be able to do it because we were granted the rights from the estate of David Croft and Jim Perry.
Oh, I see.
Who look after these matters, and there are other shows to do with Dad's Army, which are
well, fingers crossed. But also, you're acclaimed, and you've been awarded for your one-man shows.
Yeah.
And you've done numerous one-man shows.
Yes.
Noel Coward. 30?
30 years ago, I was writing my first one-man show.
Right.
This time 30 years ago.
So
in a panic.
They featured Noel Coward, Frankie Howard.
Well, that wasn't my first one.
Okay.
But I have done ones that have featured those famous people. Yes.
Boris Johnson.
Well, I didn't write that one, but I was. Yes, I did. I did play Boris Defeffel Alexander Johnson, and great to see you, looking very well. Love all this. Yep. There should be a statue of me up there somewhere. All that. I mean, very easy to impersonate. Very broad strokes are required. Very few colours.
Samuel Johnson as well.
Now there's a character.
Well, we'll go into that later.
Yeah,
and
Samuel Johnson.
Also, of course, Kenneth Williams.
Yes, well, you see, that is where the whole thing begins for me. And we'll probably end there if we don't wrap this up soon. But no, it's true. I am well known, I suppose, if at all, for my first work, which I did on my own, which was in 1996, and it was my one-man show about Kenneth Williams. And also, it was about my childhood, growing up in Birmingham in the 1960s and 70s. Gay, although we didn't really have the word for it then. I didn't know that's exactly what it was, but I just thought, gosh, I'm a bit like Dick Emery off the television, I thought I was going to have to spend the rest of my life going and saying, oh, hello, honky-tonks, how are you?
Well, they were the only examples at that time.
Yeah.
However, if I could also ask you now, you've got other poignant interests. So you've done a one-man show on Dr. Jim Swire, the Lockerbie crash. Now, what in particular fascinated you about that situation?
Well, that story the show was called Lockerbie Unfinished Business, is the name I came up for it in the end, because that seemed to sum it up most what it was about. I was very annoyed when every year in August, when we were in Edinburgh during the festival, all the papers would come out, and in that month of August, there was always this talk of Al Megrahi, the man who had been convicted of the Lockerbie bombing, being released. So there will always be outraged headlines saying the Lockerbie bomber to be released? ? The Lockerbie bomber has cancer, whatever.
Did you not accept the public relations blurb on Al McCracky?
How do you mean the public
Well,
relations?
what took you further than the headlines?
I knew there were problems with the whole story, the official story, because of reading Paul Foote in Private Eye, I think it was Paul Foote, I may be wrong, but certainly Private Eye did a whole special edition on Lockerbie. I can't tell you what year, but I think it was early 90s. Am I right? I may be wrong. Anyway, that made me aware that there was another story, and I'm always interested when there's another possible story from the one we're being told.
So that provoked you to do your
Well,
own
I was so
research.
annoyed seeing these headlines coming out of you saying outraged about the Lockerbie bomber, and I thought, well, have you not read Private Eye? Have you not read that I knew about Dr. Jim Swire, whose daughter was on the.
So, if I can go through a couple of the facts before we elaborate. So, for those of you that you don't know, at Lockerbie, it was a terrorist incident in 1988, in 21st of December.
The worst terrorist incident on UK soil.
Exactly.
In terms of toll.
And the aircraft was 30 minutes late leaving London Heathrow. It originated at Frankfurt, it was destined for Heathrow, then it was destined for JFK, and then it was destined for Detroit. So it's a 4-sector flight. But when it left Heathrow, it was 30 minutes late. That's why it exploded over Lockerbie and not over the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Where all the evidence would have been lost.
That's right.
So what you uncovered, and in your research, and also Jim Swire. Jim Swire was the father of one of the victims, Flora. She was killed on the flight.
Flora MacDonald Swire.
Now, she was very lucky to get a ticket because she didn't think that she would get a ticket because the Christmas flights were rammed, but the flight was only half full because there had been a security announcement within the diplomatic fraternity throughout, I guess, the world, but Europe for sure. And nobody were booking these flights, these transatlantic flights.
Is that true? I mean, I know that there were certain stories about that. There were certain diplomats who didn't make the flight and what have you. And I don't know whether that was ever confirmed or not.
The security announcement was definitely announced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Anyone got on the flight. But were not to the public.
This is why...
Yes, that's right.
This is why Margaret Thatcher didn't discuss or write in her memoirs anything about the Lockerbie. As you said, it was the biggest terrorist event, even bigger than 1984, when they blew up the Grand Hotel in Brighton.
Yeah.
So
bigger than that.
She didn't mention it at all in her memoirs.
290 people.
Yeah.
She didn't mention it in her memoirs, and when Tam Dael, I believe, seemed to remember, sat down next to her at dinner, and he said, I asked her, why didn't you mention it? And she said, I don't write about things I don't know anything about.
Oh, well, come on.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So I'm sure she knew exactly what went on, and it would be interesting to know, because the story about Lockerbie, changed. So that was the key problem is with Megrahi being convicted, is that initially the whole focus was on a rent-a-terror group called the PFLPG, who made barometric bombs. Yes. They specialised in a particular kind of bomb that was barometric. In other words, it would explode once it or the timer would be set off once the plane reached cruise altitude. That takes about 30 minutes to reach, and the bomb was timed to go off 8 minutes after reaching cruise altitude. Yes. So it exploded 38 minutes after leaving Heathrow.
Yeah.
So that's the timing of it, and that's why it went off over Lockerbie, Dumfries, and other towns in the area which were decimated.
I have to conclude with Kate Adie.
Oh, yes.
She summarised, she said that there were 4 great powers involved in this dynamics in this affair, if I can put it that way. Mm-hmm. So the United States, United Kingdom, Scotland specifically, and Libya, and they all wanted the status quo. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we'll ever get there.
They all wanted the status quo. Yeah.
There was too much involved.
You mean to tell the truth?
Yes.
Right, I see, yes.
I mean, at London Heathrow,
That's so cynical there.
airside London. So you got the public side, and you got airside, which is a secure environment. There was a break-in
At Heathrow. Yes.
and 2 suitcases were left beside the Pan Am baggage,
Yeah.
and that's where it's alleged that the bomb entered.
No, but it's alleged that it entered the Lucca Airport, Malta. That's where the official story is that Al-Megrahi dropped the bag with his colleague, whose name I've for the moment forgotten.
Well, this is a subterfuge, but why then wasn't there? Because of the break-in.
It wasn't
at
revealed
Heathrow.
at the trial, I believe, about the
But nobody's ever investigated it.
Not probably because they were looking somewhere else. But in fact, there was definitely a reported break-in, which was big bolt had to be cut through with shears to get in through this particular hangar at Heathrow in which the plane was stored, and that's where it could well be that the explosives were loaded.
Well, the baggage, not
the
aircraft, the baggage.
The baggage,
yeah,
was loaded onto.
Yeah, because it's a 4-sector flight. It just remains on the ground for cleaning and then, recrewing and all that business. It wouldn't actually go into a hangar.
It wouldn't. Oh well, wherever it was.
Well, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
So it left Frankfurt.
Okay.
But then it went to. This is why the European people got the security advice not to go on the flight.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't have been in that aircraft hangar. That was just the baggage.
Okay, the baggage, where the baggage was stored.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Anyhow,
that's what I mean.
Anyway, we're digressing.
But the point of all this was that I used to see these newspapers coming out, and I remember particularly one year in the assembly rooms, in the artist bar, whatever it's called, seeing this pile of the Scotsman and all the other papers with the usual outrage about the Lockerbie bomber, and I thought I could do a show about that sets the record straight, because it would mean, reading the private eye thing again in great detail and going to Dr. Swire himself, who it seemed to me was the obvious person for me to portray, rather than me coming out as me and saying this is what happened, tell his story, because it's not only full of lots of facts and detail, as we've just been talking about, but it's a highly emotional, heartbreaking, punishingly emotional story of him getting the news of how he then had to, through his grief, do everything he could to make sure that as long as he lived, he was fighting the cause of getting the justice for Flora and all the other people who died, which he still hasn't had, because governments are still stonewalling on this and blocking and doing everything they can not to tell the truth.
And he's done
so well. That's what I can't stand. What I really can't stand is the media telling one story which I know isn't true. And it all goes back, I think, to when I was at school. And we had to do prayers and put our hands together and say prayers. It wasn't a church school, it's just what you did at state school. But my dad was a very, very strict atheist.
Oh, right.
And more Dawkins than Dawkins, I always say. And he just absolutely was. There's no such thing as God. So we're saying prayers at school and Dad says there's no such thing as God. What's going on here was essentially the question that entered my mind at a very early age. It's like, why all my friends believe this lie we're being told and are going along with it? And why am I? And so I used to mouth the words to the hymns, and my brother and sister did as well, because you're not actually somehow committing your voice to something that you don't believe in, that you think is wrong. So I've had to figure that out for myself as I've gone through life, but it's left me, I think, with a lasting skepticism about the official story of anything. Right. I always want to think, well, what's the other side of this?
Well, your one-man show got an award, and Amnesty picked up on it as well.
Amnesty International, I was nominated for an Amnesty International Freedom of Expression Award, which does mean something.
It does.
It does. It's quite a lot. I was very proud of that. Very proud of that
so
Lockerbie show. And one of the reasons I did the show is because I was known for doing dead camp comedians, shows about cultural history, and I thought that actually there are things that are really on my mind that I'd rather talk about.
Right.
And on that year, Lockerbie was the one.
Right.
And I've done shows on things that you saw, like the Cato Street plot of 1820 was my last show, but we can come on to that.
Okay, well let's go to Cato Street then, because I've got that listed. Now this is a fascinating one-man show, which I saw in Camden Town.
You saw the very first performance of it.
Oh, did I really?
Yes, the
Right,
tryout
okay.
performance.
Yeah, that was absolutely fascinating. Now, the Cato Street conspiracy was an event in 1820. Now, the government had just been elected, the repressive government at that time.
Lord Liverpool, the government.
So the king had died. George II had died. So George III, sorry, had died, and so George IV became king, and then there was a general election, and then there was a great repression at the time. Anyway, it was a society here today at that time. Sorry, Jane Austen's time. It just wasn't nice for many people.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you could even have a good trade and be a good tradesman, and still, life was rough.
It was rough.
It was.
There was no welfare.
Unequal.
There was no security net. There was nothing.
Yeah.
If you were out of work, you starved on the street.
So there was a gentleman, an ex-soldier called Arthur Thistlewood. What a fabulous name!
Isn't it a good name, Arthur Thistlewood?
Arthur Thistlewood, yes. And he was an ex-soldier, and he bought a mews house with a stable in a Cato Street, just off Edgware
He didn't buy
Road.
it. He
rented it.
It was rented.
That's right, he rented it.
Well, yeah.
And,
Go on.
in the vicinity of Paddington.
Yeah.
And but basically, this was in 1819, and he used it as a meeting house, and he recruited 20 other conspirators. Now, unbeknown to him, one of the young men that he recruited was called George Edwards. Now, George Edwards was a government spy.
Yeah.
So how on earth those two got just happened upon each other, I don't know.
I can tell you.
Oh, please.
Well,
Because I didn't find that in the research.
well, Arthur Thistlewood, you see, was convicted because he sent a letter to Lord Sidmouth, the Home Secretary, challenging to a duel.
Ah,
And so he ended up in a very, very grim jail called Horsham Jail in East Sussex. Very grim, still there actually, the building. And when he came out of the jail, waiting for him was a man called George Edwards.
Oh, I see.
Who came to
It
him and
makes
said,
sense.
I am the man you've been waiting for. I've got money because my uncle was a German baron who died and left me all this money. So I've gone from being penniless and angry to rich and angry. And we can now take on the world. And Arthur Thistlewood thought, this is the guy I've been waiting for.
Well, this is fascinating.
No one could talk him out of this.
So what George Edwards latched onto was this conspiracy, and he reported back for many months, and George put an advertisement into the press of a dinner, and this was at just get the gentleman's
Lord
name.
Harrowby's house.
Yes, in Grosvenor Square.
Grosvenor Square.
Number 44 Grosvenor Square. And they actually, they recruited additional household staff, chefs. They got all the provisions, all the food in for this wonderful dinner that was going to host the whole of the government cabinet.
But it never was.
It never was. But
It was all a trick.
But the whole household was churning, preparing for this dinner. And I mean, this is like the gunpowder plot. It
Well,
really
it's
is.
very like the gunpowder plot in some respects, yes.
Yes. So anyhow, 8 o'clock that evening, all the conspirators, they were in Cato Street Mews House, and they had their fireballs, their
Pikes,
blunderbusters,
and
I mean, just
pipe
everything,
bombs.
and all ready to storm this house because 1789 was the French Revolution, and they wanted the same in England, and it was 1820, and they really but they hadn't designed anything to progress a revolution of that sort.
No.
But that was their fantasy. However, at 8 o'clock that evening, the police constabulary of Bow Street raided Cato Street, and then they one of the constables was
Smithers was run through.
and then another one was saved by his braces because they were too thick. But here's the thing: the Household Cavalry Lifeguard, the King's Lifeguard bodyguard, they were tasked to augment the police, but they somehow got lost.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yes.
They got lost.
They got lost. They were going to Cato Street from their barracks and Wellington Barracks, and they got lost. Now, how the hell? I mean, what was going on there?
I didn't know about that one.
Yeah. So,
Well, you...
So half the conspirators were hung, drawn, and quartered.
No. I had to keep... I'm dying.
Really?
Or you've told the whole
Really?
story, and I keep wanting to jump and
Really?
say, no, hang on, that's wrong.
Well,
No, they
correct
weren't.
me now.
The sentence was read out that they would be taken out on May 1st, 1820, to be hanged, drawn, and quartered. But that was actually commuted to hanged and then beheaded.
Oh, okay.
So hanged until you were dead and then beheaded.
Oh, so they were
And
never
that-
quartered.
No, they didn't do that.
Ah, okay, fine.
Because that is
But their heads...
the worst thing you can do. I mean, it's so sick.
yeah, but
This
that-
must be a Christian country, and you end up cutting people up in a satanic ritual like that in public. What kind of people are these?
So their heads went onto the pikes, and then did the people dance around a maypole on the 1st of May?
No, there is a political cartoon where
fine.
that is a metaphor that's used. No. The story, I can tell you the whole story of the execution if you like.
No, thank you. Tell me.
You don't want to hear it? Okay.
What interested you about the Cato Street conspiracy?
Well, initially the execution.
Oh,
Because
really?
the first time
Well, then go through it then.
No, well, the first time I read about it was, I was idly reading in the British Library, I think, some old book, where they had an eyewitness account of this execution. I thought, God, how fascinating. And it was some years later, having already had that image that the story in this contemporary newspaper gave me of this horrendous scene of a man coming out and screaming this song, Give me death or liberty, at the top of his voice. First of all of them eating oranges, because they used to give them oranges when they were coming out to be hanged or beheaded. So they're all sucking on oranges, and their hands were like that, pinioned, so they're able to have the oranges. And they came out one by one onto this, like a stage, really, that was specially built outside Newgate, which is now the Royal Courts of Justice, the Old Bailey. But you can still go and stand and you can imagine where this platform stood. These men were brought out one by one, 5, and were then taken one by one to have the noose placed around their neck. They would do bows. People from the crowd, a huge crowd, about 100,000 people.
Yes, that's right.
Clinging onto lampposts and on roofs, and everybody wanted to see it. Of course, execution days were also apprentice days off. Apprentices were expected to go and witness this. And there were women, children. It was a family day out. It seems incredible now. And this was 5 guys at once. 5 for the price of 1.
Yeah.
So, and then they were going to be beheaded afterwards. So I read about that. But years later, I was researching a song that was performed in the 1840s, in the cider cellars on Maiden Lane. One of your lights has just gone out. It's all right. Let's keep talking. We'll do the radio version. One by one, the lights go out. So I was researching this song called The Ballad of Sam Hall, which is all about, he's a man singing, but he's about to be hanged. And it's a very gruesome song that was popular in the 1840s. And I came up across an article written in 1840 by William Makepeace Thackeray called Going to See a Man Hanged, an account of going to see a different hanging, where he's talking in the crowd to someone who was present at the famous execution of the Cato Street 5. And this was an execution that became legendary and was talked about for years because of what happened at that execution, how it was conducted, and the way the crowd behaved. But this is a long story which we could go into, but I can see it's a long digression. So we'll come back to that another day.
So with Jim Swire and Lockerbie, that was an injustice and the charade.
It was, and also the press putting out the wrong story.
Yes.
And I had the chance as a fringe performer to correct that in a way that I couldn't if I was on the BBC or film or anything
and
like
with
that.
Cato Street as the one-man show.
Yeah.
And you wanted to highlight this event?
I wanted to pick up on a public mood that was certainly very prevalent in 2019 when I performed it.
Okay.
I used to go on giving out flyers before the show because in Edinburgh you had to constantly try and get people in to see these. So you give out flyers and you need a strap line, a very quick way to get people's attention because they get given flyers all day. So I just would say, this is a show about a plot to kill the government.
Right.
And they'll go, oh, that sounds interesting. Oh, I have one of those. Yeah. We'll come see that. And I think a lot of people came for that reason.
Okay.
I discovered there seemed to be a sort of frivolous but serious support amongst the general public, amongst nice middle-class theatregoers for violent insurrection.
Okay.
And it was bubbling right under the surface in 2019. So I thought, well, this is exactly the same as 200 years ago, 1819 and 1820, when the public was similarly angry at the government, and the government was very fearful of the public.
Right.
And was shutting down, was clamping down on free speech, on gatherings or how many people could gather, what have you. And of course you had the Peterloo Massacre in 1819,
yes,
which left a very bad stink in the country. Half the country thought, yes, they deserved it. The other half thought, no, this is an outrage.
And another one-man show that you did was on Samuel Johnson.
Yes, the great Samuel Johnson.
The great Samuel Johnson.
What a man.
Now, previously I've been to Gough Square, which is just off Fleet Street in London.
Yes.
And that's where Samuel Johnson lived. And in the garret at the top, the loft space, he converted that into his little workshop.
For the dictionary.
He was the dictionary man. Doesn't that sound like a Eurythmics song? The dictionary man.
Yeah, he was.
But anyhow, yeah, I mean, he was the man that was tasked by the booksellers of the day into writing the dictionary, because before him there wasn't a dictionary.
No, there were collections of particular words to relate to different trades or whatever, but not a snapshot of the English language. And he felt that Johnson himself felt that he had a moral impetus for doing this, because it was a disgrace for Britain not to have. I mean, the French, the Italians, they all had their own dictionaries, but there wasn't an English one.
But he's an interesting character, very melancholy, I have to say.
Yeah,
he grew up as a sickly child, very studious, and due to his illnesses as a young boy, his left eye was almost blind, and he's very short-sighted in his right eye. He had mild Tourette's, so he came over as quite a mad kind of character to most.
Yes, he did. In fact, there were stories of him one time entering into a house to go and see someone very grand and important, and as they went up the stairs, the housemaid grabbed his coattails and said, "Oi, not you," thinking it was a homeless person who'd come in off the street. It was the great Dr. Johnson.
Oh, how funny.
And also, I think somebody famous, now wasn't, he did meet the American with the flag, with the kite, the famous American kite, 18th century thinker, founder of America. What's his name?
Anyway.
Flew a kite, discovered gravity with lightning.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Americans watching, you all know the name of this. What's the name of Benjamin Franklin? Benjamin Franklin. They did apparently meet at some point. But it was somebody like that who met him, or it wasn't Benjamin Franklin, but it was somebody grand who was in a room and saw this man standing at the window and just thought he was some complete idiot, as he said, because he was sort of enormous, great hulking figure, twitching and gibbering, dressed in quite tatty clothes. But he said as soon as he opened his mouth, he realised this was a genius, because the way he spoke, as I think Joshua Reynolds said, was as correct as a second edition.
Oh, how amazing.
And, he spoke as he wrote, and his writing is amazing. And one of the reasons I wanted to do a show about Samuel Johnson was to get people away from Dr. Johnson, who is, most people know, if they know Johnson, it's through Dr. Johnson, this character largely created in the public mind by the great James Boswell.
But do you know where the doctor came from?
Yes, it was an honorary degree he was given in recognition of writing the dictionary, but he wasn't a doctor he didn't invent baby powder.
And he would only publish the dictionary once he got that honorary degree.
No, he did it anyway. He got the honorary thing, I think, during or after the process. Isn't that right? Am I wrong?
No. He lobbied to get the honorary, and then it was published.
I don't think he's not the sort of thing he would do, to lobby for that kind of honour. He would accept it if given it, like his pension.
Because it was AM after his name on the dictionary.
Is it AM? Yeah,
AM.
I wish I had it.
And
but he never called him.
But he wanted that to be on that first edition.
Okay.
The 2 volumes.
I don't know if that was his own vanity or anybody else's, but certainly that's what happened. He gave the book more selling power, apart from everything else. But he, crucially, never called himself Dr. Johnson. He never referred to himself as Dr. Johnson. That was other people.
Right.
And to me, I think there's 2 different characters. There's the Dr. Johnson that Boswell created and that we all love, but there's the man who comes out of his own writing. It's very different.
We also have to think of where he's come from, because he's come from, his father was a tradesman, owned a bookshop.
Yes.
And he never wanted to do that business. His mother took over the business when the father died. This is in Lichfield. Then he married his wife, who was more than 20 years his senior.
About 20 years.
But by all accounts, it was love.
It was certainly not. I'm not sure if the marriage was ever consummated.
Oh, really?
It was a very mysterious marriage because she was a rather silly, very overmade up lady who spent most of her time in bed in her later years taking laudanum. To which she was addicted. But
in the end, he was funding her, and it wasn't, because initially she funded him to go to London, and then he got a jobbing authorship at the Gentleman's Magazine in Clerkenwell. Right. And then it was the booksellers there that got him to do this dictionary. But very interestingly, he published the first 2 letters, A and B, and realised the enormity of having to write the dictionary. Well, I won't say he gave up.
He spent about 2 years, I think, thinking, right, let's go, start at A, and think of all the words you can think of that start with A, and come up with definitions. Then it took him 2 years, and he suddenly realized this isn't going to work. I have to start again. What he did was then go to all the libraries of all the friends he knew and everybody, get all the books he could out on and read them all. I mean, even with one eye that didn't work well, he read them all. Every time he came to a word that was interest, he would underline it, put a sheet of paper into market, and then write the word on a strip of paper to make a definition later. No, write the quote. No, he wouldn't. He would mark it, and then later his amanuensis, his team of workers, would go through and write all the quotes from the books to be used as supporting quotes. So you not only had a definition of the word, but several quotes from the best writers, as he said, to illustrate how it should be used. And so it's a fabulous dictionary of quotations as well as a wonderful dictionary of definitions, some of which are brilliant.
I mean, it's lovely that in his lifetime he saw the success of his work.
Yeah. And because it was a long struggle.
And he was pretty much impoverished most of his life.
Yes, he was.
But it was nice that George II died, and then George III came to the throne, and then after about four years, then George III gave him a full pension.
That's right.
Which was able to enjoy for at least a decade before he died.
The last. So he had about £300 a year, I think, which wasn't a fortune, but it was enough so that he wasn't scrimping and scraping and in destitution like he had been for most of his life.
Yeah. But what about Samuel Johnson attracted you to do a one-man show?
I suppose I knew about Johnson because my dad loved him, but my dad was very much a Boswellian Johnsonian.
Okay.
And I became interested in Johnson's own writing and just loved it. I think he was like a new guru that took the place. I needed, because I don't really believe in God, any of that. Not church. I don't believe in religion through a church or anything like that at all. I believe in something.
Okay.
I'm a deist, I suppose. Right. But Johnson, I was looking for someone who had wisdom, and Quentin Crisp was a huge influence on me.
Right.
As a young man.
But you lived in New York?
For a while, about 30 years ago, I was living in New York. And
did you ever meet him?
Yeah, I met Quentin Crisp on several. You could just ring him up. He was in the phone book.
Which I did.
Did you as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
In New York or when you were?
Whilst I was living here, not here, but in Hampstead, and because I got a record.
Of his one-man show.
Yes, and which I sent to a friend, and a friend met him, and then Quentin signed it for him. But I telephoned Quentin up, and I explained who I was, and I just said I'd like, if possible, if you would sign my LP, and he said, "Oh, of course," and And then he started to talk about he'd been out the night before, and I said, "Oh, where were you?" He said, "Oh, I was at a wedding." And I said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Yeah, did you enjoy it? There was so much noise."
Yeah, that sounds like Benson.
And that anyway. But so what
Well, I used to ring him
were
up.
your impressions?
Yeah, and I just thought, wouldn't it be great to meet one of my heroes, Quentin? I'd seen his one-man show, the Don Mar Warehouse, in 1984, I think, but I already knew the record. I knew the show off by heart anyway when I saw it.
Okay.
And then I was in New York. I was having a relationship at the time with somebody there, so I got to spend some time in a city I'd always wanted to go to. And I found the phone book and I rang him up and I said, "Would you like to?" "Oh, yes. Hello, Mr. Crisp. You don't know me, but I was wondering if you'd like to go for lunch." "Oh, that would be nice. I can't come now." "No, it's all right. Anytime you're free is fine." "All right, I'll just go and get the sacred book." And then he'd go and get his diary, come back and say, "Well, I can do next Thursday at 2:00 at the Cooper Square restaurant," which is where he'd always meet, at the Cooper Square restaurant on 2nd Avenue. When you see him being interviewed by film crews, it's very often at the same table that I met him, or anyone would meet him.
Right.
At the Cooper Square, a diner. Yeah. "And I'll see you there." And he said, I will be sitting in the window like a Dutch prostitute." And of course he always was.
Amazing.
But he said that to everybody, of course. He used these lines. Yeah. And so you go, and there he would be, either on his own or we're already with people, admirers. And it was a chance just to sit and talk to somebody like who I really admired so much and whose wisdom I wanted.
And have you thought of doing a one-man show?
I have thought of doing a show. I did put him in a show I did called Starstruck many years ago, 2004, I think that was.
But he'd make a wonderful show.
He would, but somebody's already doing one.
Oh.
And it's very difficult. I could do it from my angle, but when somebody's already established doing them, in fact, 2-3 shows about Quentin. It's funny, when I was first doing Kenneth back in 96, 30 years ago, I was the only one. Now there's a proliferation of shows about Kenneth. You can take your pick. And there's as many Kenneths as there are Hamlets out there.
I only know of yours.
Well, I know, I only know of mine. I could only bear to watch mine because, I always think other people get it a bit wrong. But I have my Kenneth, which is my version, and everybody else is entitled to do their own versions of Kenneth.
Now, recently, there was a big celebration for the 100th anniversary of Kenneth Williams' birthday.
Yeah.
And the marvellous Sheila Hancock was there.
Oh, you were there, weren't you, at the British Library?
That's right. And wow, she knocked me for 6.
Amazing Dame. God. 91, I think. It was her birthday. She was 91, or
no, 92.
92. You'd never think.
If I want to follow anybody, it's Sheila Hancock.
Yes.
Wow.
What a Dame.
Yeah.
Little she is a Dame now. I first met, do you want me to tell you my history with Sheila? First of all, I should say that they do it at the British Library. I suggested to them the previous summer, because I've done 2 or 3.
It was sellout.
Yes, I've done 2 or 3 performances there in the past, including Cato Street and Dad's Army and others. So I have a link there. And I said, what about something for Kenneth's birthday next year? And eventually I heard back and they said, let's do it. And they said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I could do some readings, but let's have a discussion with people who knew him. So I immediately thought Giles Brandreth.
Yes.
Who I first met in 97. He came to see my show on Kenneth and wrote me a fan letter, if you can believe. I was blown away. Lovely, lovely man, so kind and lovely. And he had me on his Rosebud interview, very much like this, but not as in-depth.
Sorry.
But,
I'm a bit obsessive.
Back in February or something, I did that there's a Rosebud with me on it, with Giles. And so I asked him, and he, of course, said yes. And then I thought, well, if I've asked Giles, he could ask Sheila Hancock, because I do have a connection with Sheila Hancock, but she might not remember, and she knows him well. So we asked Sheila, and she said yes. So I thought, wow, I'm going to have this event on Kenneth's birthday, February 22nd, with Giles and Sheila. And we also had a lady from the library, Helen Melody, who is the curator of the British Library's Kenneth Williams Connection, because they have all his diaries and letters and papers and everything. And so nice, lovely lady, Helen Melody. And then there was also Jeremy Swan there, who was one of the people who was there in the early days of Jack Honoré, who knew Kenneth very well. And it was actually him who gave Kenneth that joke, that story, true story, which we had the clip of him telling it, which about Robert Helpman, Do you know the story?
Oh, please tell the
Well,
please tell the listeners.
it's apparently a true story that Robert Helpman was touring a Midsummer Night's Dream in stadiums, big arena show of Midsummer Night's Dream in Australia or somewhere, or New Zealand. And he was allocated the umpire's dressing room, which was a massive, great big room. I've changed in rooms like that as well.
So funny.
Where there was just mirrors all the way around, no lights except one naked light bulb, very high up. And he was to put his makeup on, he had to climb up on a chair, on a table, and get right there with a mirror and apply this green and gold makeup. And somebody came to the door and said, "Mr. Helpman, it's your 10-minute call. Are you all right?" And he said, "Yes, I'm all right, but God knows how these umpires match." Brilliant story. And it was Jeremy Swan who told Kenneth that story, and he was in our audience at the British Library. So I was able to draw on him and make it into more of a discussion about Kenneth and memoirs. But Sheila Hancock goes back with me to when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
In 1980. And I was doing a project for my A-levels. I was in Sutton Coldfield College of Further Education. And I was doing a drama A-level. And I did as my project Stephen Sondheim. I didn't know anything about Stephen Sondheim, but I thought, well, it's a good topic. I think the course leader suggested it. So I booked a ticket to go and see Sweeney Todd, the original London production with full orchestra at Drury Lane.
Wow.
Dennis Quilley playing Sweeney and Sheila Hancock as Mrs. Lovett.
Oh, how wonderful.
And I wrote a letter to them both, to Dennis Quilley and Sheila Hancock, saying, "Can I interview you for my project?" And Dennis Quilley said, "No, I'm too busy." And Sheila Hancock said, "Yes, come and see me after the evening." I went to the matinee and she said, "Come after the evening performance." So I had lots of time to think about this show that absolutely blew me away at the matinee. I couldn't believe how brilliant it was. And all the music was still swirling through my head when I went in the evening to Drury Lane and sat with her in her dressing room after her 2 performances she'd done that day. And she sat with me for at least half an hour because I've still got a tape with one half of it, half an hour with me and Sheila Hancock talking. The first time I'd ever really met or spoken to a famous person, let alone someone who's just completely knocked me sideways on stage with her performance. And she was so nice to me. She gave me a glass of champagne from her fridge. And I remember sitting in this room with all the costumes hanging up and everything, and her sitting there talking to me like this and being very nice when she must have been really knackered and wanted to go home. And I had my questions all written down, a bit like yours, John. And I was saying, I can't remember what questions I asked, but very gauche when I listen to myself now on this tape. But she was so nice to me then. And then in 1998, I was doing Think No Evil of Us at the Lyric Hammersmith studio.
Did she come to see you?
She came to see it with John Thaw.
Really?
Yes, her husband John Thaw.
Wow.
And I met her afterwards, and it was strange because for some reason I had this whole month run at the Lyric Hammersmith and the audience wouldn't laugh. I'd probably been doing the show too long and I was tired or something, but I couldn't get all the things that normally get laughs, just silence. Show after show after show. And the one that she came to with John Thaw, I remember her laugh was the only one that was really ringing out of the silence of the audience. And in the scene in the restaurant where I'm showing Kenneth at dinner with a table full of people and waiters and autograph hunters and what have you, her laugh was peeling out because she said to me afterwards, "God, that was just like it. That was just like having dinner with Kenneth. How did you do it? How did you know it?" And I had to say, "I don't know. I just had a joint one day and wrote it all down." In Edinburgh, I was desperately trying to come up with imagine what would it be like to have dinner with Kenneth. And I just sort of closed my eyes and thought about it, and I just started to hear it. I wrote it down. And that's the way I perform it now, is what I wrote down that day. It's weird. But it was like it was being dictated. And she said that was like Kenneth, he was, that's the way he'd kick off at dinner and be funny, but also get to the point where you're going, "Kenny, that's enough."
Now, Kenneth was quite a depressive man. Were there
manic depressive, I suppose, or bipolar, as we now say.
Oh, really? I see. Oh, okay. So there would have been times in his life where he'd felt happy then.
Yeah, I think you can see in the diary. Nobody's miserable all the time or happy all the time. We're all a mix. It seems like his were quite extreme. Going by the diaries, this is strange because you hear different accounts from different people. I know people who've met him who said he was horrible because he was in a bad mood. And people who said, like someone we were talking to just very recently, who was his postman, Kenneth Postman in the 1980s, you just introduced me to, who said he was absolutely lovely and charming. And other people who would say that as well. It would be very much about what mood you got him in, how he was feeling, how you approached them as well. He didn't like flattery and fawning very much, but he also hated particularly people coming up and saying, "Oh, you're so wonderful and marvellous, and can I have your..." and "Carry on, Kenneth," and saying things like that. Yeah. "Carry on, Kenny."
Yeah.
Apparently he got that all the time when he was crossing, when he was walking down the street. "All right, Kenny, carry on, Kenny." It drove him mad, you know.
I can imagine.
And so it would depend on his mood. Sometimes it might cheer him up, other times it would drive him mad. He was human like anyone, but it did seem to be quite extreme with him. When you read his diaries, I'm sure you've read his diaries, haven't you? Have you read his diaries?
I haven't.
Oh.
Tell me, your impersonation is, obviously spot on. Did it take you a long time to cultivate that?
Well, not really. I used to impersonate him anyway, just for my own amusement and that of my friends. I remember when I was living in Edinburgh, I was in the pub, I wasn't getting enough attention. Let's turn to Kenneth Williams, yes, it's in. But then I thought, at the beginning, I could do what everybody does when they do a Kenneth Williams. They go, "Oh, matron," or whatever, but you have to go a bit further than that. You have to be able to talk in all these voices to do an accurate impersonation. And he had many different voices he used. And the question comes up sometimes, what was his real voice? How would he talk when he was just being himself? And I'm not sure if there was really a real voice, because most people will say he would go into different voices, even in private conversation.
Sure.
But I don't know, very depressive though. I think his diaries shocked a lot of people, because, even people who knew him well, because he would describe, for instance, occasions when they'd been together or professionally and thought he was in a great mood, and then find out he went and wrote, "Oh, it was dreadful," and would write something very, very negative afterwards in his private diary.
Yeah.
Do you keep a diary?
I did do.
Did you? What happened? You gave up?
I became exceptionally busy.
Yeah.
And, when you put words down in writing, it's definitive, and you commit yourself. So I remember one person said to me once, I won't say who it was, but they said, "Never put anything down in writing." And
that's interesting. I put so much. I've been keeping a journal for years.
You have?
Yeah, since I began it in late '94, I think November '94. And I read a book which a lot of people who keep journals do so because they read a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, I think.
Okay.
And it's a guide to spiritually unblocking yourself. If you're blocked as a writer, read this book, and it's spiritually...
Well, it is therapeutic.
Purge yourself. So write a journal. So she just write 3 pages every day. And so I've been writing A4 pads, 3 pages, almost every morning.
What, handwriting?
Yeah, handwriting. And I write the time, the date, where we are, what time it is.
Yeah.
The last few years I've been drawing the moon, what phase the moon's at. I don't know why, just out of interest. Because you can easily not notice. Our ancestors used to know what phase the moon was at all the time, and we don't notice. And then where I am. And then just write 3 pages of mostly rubbish.
And how do you archive them?
I just put them in lever arch files. So I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of these things, which I think should really be burnt on my funeral pyre. Well, because who the hell's ever going to want to read it? It's so much of it.
Well, there's a diary project.
Is there?
At the Bishopsgate Institute.
The Bishopsgate Institute?
Yes, leave it to them. Oh, they'd love it.
Would they?
Yes.
Bishopsgate Institute? Oh, I don't know anything
Yes,
about the
it's
Bishopsgate
called the
Institute.
Diary Project.
Goodness.
So, please.
Oh, great. Well, I'd love to
Please.
pass it on when I'm gone.
Oh, you must.
Because it might be of interest, but there's an awful lot of it. I mean, these are A4 pads going back to 1994.
Believe me, they will want it.
Will they? Oh,
Yes.
great. Fine, they've got it.
Yeah.
But then I don't want to write the journal thinking to myself, one day the Bishopsgate Institute are going to read this, or anyone else. It has to be a private letter to yourself. In other words, writing the things that you want to read, that you want to hear, that you would write, just whatever's on your mind, you just churn it out. And there's a lot of sex and stuff in there. There's a lot of filthy stuff as well. I hope they've got broad minds.
Perfect. Yeah.
But also when you have a big current event
But this is an academic archive.
Well, it's not really... Well, there's a lot of academic...
so
well, everything is academic once it's history.
Yeah. So I think it would be great for
Once
them.
you're dead, it's all history, and therefore it becomes of interest.
Yeah.
It's actually while it's still alive, it's of less interest. It's just clutter. But once you're dead, it becomes a sacred object. Something you can bequeath to an institution. I love it. And then one day they hopefully will incinerate the lot.
One question I have for you is that some people who become not obsessive with a certain personality, they start off, they become this commercial hit, and then in the end they absolutely loathe and detest. How have you had an evolution of appreciation of Kenneth in that respect?
Yeah, I did it initially, do it with great enthusiasm, and then thought, well, this was only ever meant to be a kind of audition rate to say, here I am, this is what I can do. That's why I perform as myself as well as Kenneth in the show. So it's not just him. I want them to know who I am too. So I've been doing it all these years, and I did get to a point where I thought, I don't want to be just typecast as Kenneth all the time. I don't just be playing Kenneth. And that's why in the shows I've done on my own, I varied it and done shows on Samuel Johnson or Lockerbie or Kate Street or very different things than just Kenneth all the time. This year I've come back to Kenneth because it's his anniversary, and also to remind people that I'm here and that I was the first one to do it and do it best, let's face it.
Oh yes.
Well, in my opinion.
There's no doubt.
Well, I do my version of it, and that's it. You know, everybody else can do whatever they like. Anyway, I've always wanted to vary it. Now, back in I've missed two big opportunities because of this stubbornness on my own part. One was at the National Theatre in '98, I think, or maybe it was a bit after then. No, it was after that. They were doing a show, Cleo Camping Emmanuel and Dick, which was a great hit, and it was Terry Johnson, brilliant script that was had a Kenneth Williams part. And I thought, I can't, if I do this, I'll never play anything else but Kenneth. So I said to the casting woman at the National, I said, could I won't do this because I don't want to be typecast, but could I, if anything else comes up at the National, I'd love to do it. Of course, I never heard from them again until 2010 when I did One Man, Two Governors. Or was it 2011? Which was amazing. That was a whole different story many years later. But Cleo Camping Emmanuel and Dick, I said no to, and Adam Godley played the part and was brilliant. Then you had at the White Bear Theatre, Round the Horn revisited on stage. So again, like this, a radio show on stage. And they came to me first, would you be interested? And I said, oh no, I've done so much hair. I don't want to be typecast. And so they gave it to Robin Sebastian, who was absolutely brilliant and did become, you know, really the man who plays Kenneth Williams, because he even looks like him, which I don't. Well, and the lights are going out again.
The lights are going. So
and he was brilliant. So, you know, that was my silly thought, wasn't it?
David, it's been wonderful speaking with you today.
Are we done? Oh.
Well, I think that the lights have determined.
That's it.
They've determined that it's game over.
Well, we're now switching to the radio version of the show.
Thank you so much.
My great pleasure, and what an honour to be asked to sit here amongst your memorabilia and your knickknacks and see all your things, and you know, it's beautiful.
No, it's been fascinating speaking with you on all manner of topics. And
I could go on and on. Ask me back again.
Thanks for everybody at home for listening in. Bye-bye.